I transitioned from female to male and I still feel like I'm not man enough. And it's exhausting. No one talks about this part. The pressure to be man enough, to have your voice sound right, to walk masculine enough, to show emotion or lack of emotion. Hello, my name's Abe and I'm a trans guy. We are taught in society that being a man means being shut down emotionally. It means being hard, being dominant, and pretty untouchable. How much you don't need anyone, you're fine. But to me, healthy masculinity is about quiet strength. It's about quiet confidence. And it's about emotional presence. It's about owning my truth and holding space for others. It's a strength that doesn't need to be loud to be felt. About a year into my transition, I went to work in the mining industry. Now, as you're probably aware, or as you can probably imagine, that industry is a little bit behind. Starting in a job like that a year into your transition is either brave or a little bit stupid. You choose. I think it's probably a little bit of both. Now, my experience with masculinity as soon as I entered that environment was one of toxicity. I don't think I realized how much of a divide there was between the genders. I remember the bro-like behavior, which can be really supportive and healthy, but in that environment is quite toxic. There's this expectation for you to be cold, tough, not show or have any emotion, to, I guess, be aggressive and dominant and put the fear into people, especially other men. So that's when I really started to watch myself. I started to have the inner dialogue of, oh, am I walking manly enough? Am I talking manly enough? Am I acting manly enough? Just a ridiculous inner dialogue that no one should have to experience. The judgment that I would receive from cis men in that environment for having friendships with females was something that still blows my mind. There's this expectation that genders stick to each other, like men hang out with the men, and if you were to hang out with the females, well, then they start to question your sexuality, or they judge like there's something really wrong with you. As you can imagine, I spent 29 years of my life being friends with girls. I still am. It's not new to me. It doesn't feel weird. It's something that I'm used to because I'm not a creep. So there's no blurred lines there for me. So then entering into that environment and having such harsh judgment and expectation of me felt really isolating. I felt really insecure. I felt embarrassed. I felt shame. I felt guilt. It was such a bizarre experience. Something that has taught me a lot about feminine and masculine energy and what it truly means to have a healthy balance of both. Have you ever noticed that you walk into a party or you walk into a room and there is just a clear divide of males and females? And I've really never understood it. I've never understood how we don't know how to interact with one another, how we are so separate. Yes, we're very different energetically, but being trans has given me a really nice balance. I know how to interact with females Honestly, before my transition, I knew how to interact with males very easily. It's actually become a lot more difficult since my transition because the interactions have changed. If you don't act, if you don't speak, if you don't move in a way that's masculine enough, other men judge you. They don't have to say anything. You can feel it. You can see the looks. You can feel the energy change. You can feel that they don't know how to take you. Now, I'm not having a dig at all cis males out there at all, so please don't take this personal. This is just my experience in the toxic environment that I was in. I'm sure it's not like this everywhere, but this is just my personal experience with masculinity. The pressure for trans men to step into this masculine role when they transition is something that, yes, we probably put on ourselves, but I think, society tells us, oh, well, you want to be a man, act like one. So what does acting like a man mean? Does it mean shutting down your emotion? Does it mean being a sex fiend? Does it mean, being aggressive? What's the expectation that we're putting on men? That's the question for me. I think the way I felt all of this pressure in my body is just extreme anxiety. I used to take going to the toilet for granted. It's now become something that can be a little bit scary. It just feels intimidating, and I never experienced that before. It was an easy thing to go to the toilet. There was none of that kind of pressure, fear, expectation. It was just a simple go to the toilet. I also feel the pressure to have to amp up the masculinity, and whether that means the type of banter I'm having with people, men, or whether that means there's a pressure to like the same stuff that cis dudes like, or walk a certain way, or have the same strength, or all of those masculine things. Like there's so much pressure that we're probably putting on ourselves, but there's definitely pressure from society to fit into a box, and it's a really unhealthy box. Let's talk about that. It's a really, really unhealthy box. What happened to there being individuality and uniqueness in the way that we express ourselves without copying judgment from a lot of society? When I was working in that toxic environment, I found myself overcompensating a lot. I found myself really, masking. I found myself getting to a point where it definitely felt like imposter syndrome because I couldn't naturally be me. I'm not a rowdy, dominating person. I just am myself, and I shouldn't have to be questioning all the things I was questioning in that environment, like standing a certain way, having a certain energy, having a certain voice, having a certain strength, walking a certain way. Like, why is there so much pressure and expectation on men as well as females? Obviously, I know that, but just talking about men, why do we have such standards for them? It's interesting. As I reflect, I think about having to prove myself, prove my masculinity. That's a hard one. There really is just this pressure to, oh, well, I've transitioned from female to male, so now I need to change. Now I need to fit a different box, or I need to act a certain way, feel a certain way. I need to shut down parts of myself that were really beautiful to fit this, other version of myself. Like, there's a real pressure, and no one talks about it. No one talks about how there's so much pressure that when you get to a point of making the decision to transition, that there is a pressure for you to become someone else. And I don't know if that's a pressure from me or if it's a pressure from society. Now, I'm still living a life where I am learning what masculinity means to me. To me, masculinity means that, well, I get to dress the way I want, talk the way I want, walk the way I want. But the energy behind masculinity to me is, it's a strength, but it's a quiet strength. It's not an aggressive, beat the crap out of someone that says the wrong thing to me strength. It's an inner, comfortable, knowing strength. Now, the kind of man I am today is one that's real. It's one that is a safe space, that has an inner strength, that doesn't have to prove or show up as anyone different than who I really am. It's one that's fiercely protective, fiercely strong, fiercely friggin' loving. I don't need to be loud or showy about how masculine I am. I don't feel like I need to show my strength to society because I am my strength. Now, the things that I do to help myself come back to the now and the version of the true me is sometimes I will look through photos, I'll look through videos, I'll look through my journey and remind myself of what the hell I have conquered. I'll remind myself of the strong, loving, compassionate person I have created. I don't ignore that old version of myself. I love that version. You know, I'm not going to pretend that I never lived that life. I stay very present with it because that was a person also. To all those beautiful trans men out there, you don't have to prove your masculinity to anyone, and you certainly don't have to prove it to yourself. It's an energy, and it needs to be a healthy energy. You need to have a balance of the feminine and masculine energies inside yourself. You don't have to watch how you're walking. You don't have to worry about how you're talking, if your voice is deep enough, if you look man enough. You just need to find that inner strength for yourself and for your loved ones in a healthy way. My advice for you is to don't try to blend in. Don't try to fake the way you really are, because we need to be authentic. We need to show up in healthy ways. We know what it's like to have lived a life of the female and then transition to a male. So we have a different perspective on what masculinity really is, and that's pretty special. I'm not here to be man enough for anyone else. I'm here to be real enough for me, and that's all that really matters. So if this video spoke to you, please hit subscribe and like. Everything helps for me. I'm just starting out with telling my story. Thank you for following along with me.